So, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to our online event, our practical steps to financial freedom events.
Welcome once
Um,
again to Sorry, we're getting an echo.
we're getting an echo somewhere, and I don't know where that is coming from. Okay, so we this interactive session will focus on how to get out of debt, how to manage our finances, and how to build a stress-free financial future. Um, we're not financial advisors, but we know a thing or two around how we need to manage our money, how we need to manage our finances, so we can get to where we want to be. By way of introduction, I am Lawal.
And hi, Victoria Lawal. Good
Victoria
afternoon.
Lawal. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Um, now, financials, talking about financials is so vast and wide that we can't cover everything today, but we'll share what we can for today, and there'll be future events also. But we'll share what we can today, which hopefully would help um, give us an understanding of how we need to manage our money. Now, we are part of Transformation Sanctuary International, and the ethos of Transformation Sanctuary is built on two pillars. The Lord has given us a global mandate for victorious living and Christ likeness. Now, in terms of victorious living, we organize events like this to talk about how we can have victory in our everyday lives, in our jobs, in our homes, in our finances, in our health, in our relationships, in every facet of human interaction, every facet of life. So that's why we organize events like this. And this event will hold every month by God's grace, tackling different aspects, different areas of human endeavor. Now, in terms of Christ likeness, of course, if you've never been to a Bible study, I would challenge you to attend one of our Bible studies. You will be blessed by God if you come. And our Sunday services also and our prayer meetings are all targeted at how we can become more like Christ. So that's how we draw a balance between Christ likeness and victorious living. So enough said from me. I think as we go into what we're going to discuss tonight, the first thing we'll probably need will be a background into the financial landscape of the United Kingdom. So that's where we're going to start from. And you're going to take us through that?
Yeah, I think Vincent said night. It's not night, it's afternoon. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Again, we welcome you. Thank you for that introduction. We can see in the UK, even when it's 8 during the summer, we're getting to summer now, even at 8 o'clock, it's still bright
It's still
outside.
bright,
So,
yes.
you're welcome, everyone. It promises to be a great time. So let's look at the recent data. One of the things we usually do is we just don't um, get a particular topic and just discuss it. We look at the facts, we look at the evidences. What does it look like in the UK now? What does it mean? So when we talk about financial freedom or financial stability, of course we need to look at am I owing, am I in debt, or am I financially free, and how can it be better? And one of the during our research, one of the things that we discovered is that an average credit card debt per household in UK, averagely an adult owns about 2,000, approximately £2,000,
Yeah.
which is, I guess some people don't have credit cards, some people do, but it's just showing that either you do or you do not. Averagely, it is looked at in UK that an average person, an average adult, will hold about £2,000
Wow.
in credit.
Wow.
And also, it did say that between the lockdown in March and now, the average increase in debt has increased by two, an averagely an adult, the debt has increased by 2,300 £300,
Wow.
which means the debt is increasing every day. And unless we look into it, unless we say, how do we go about this? How do we seek help? We cannot actually, we need to actually get the data
Yeah.
behind the what we are talking about. Unsecured debts, some of the things we'll be talking about today, unsecured debts, is how an averagely every adult in UK owns about approximately 3,700 in debt.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and each household by January 2021 data shows that each household actually has 61,000 pounds, either with secured debt or unsecured debt,
Mm.
in either it's loans, it's secured debt, mortgages. Each household is estimated to have about 61,000, owing about
So
61,000.
just on that, Victoria, just
Yes.
on that. So it looks to me like from what we are seeing, every adult on average in the UK
Mhm.
has a debt of £4,000 in terms of loans, in terms of credit cards, in
Yeah,
terms of bank loans, owing money,
absolutely.
families, and all that.
Yep.
And then when you then combine that with mortgages
Yep.
or rents,
Hmm.
then each household, each adult
Yeah.
will owe a total amount of around £61,000
Approximately 61,000 pounds
debts that
per
we're carrying
household.
per
Per
household that
household.
we're carrying around an ex.
Yeah. Well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That that that's
Amazing.
that's that's what the statistics shows us.
Hmm.
Could you go on the next slide, please, or
Yeah.
the one after that? Not the next one. And looking at debts, let's just looking at debts. Statistics shows that Citizens Advice Bureau
Hmm.
in 20 between last year and February 2021, they saw an average of 1,600 debt issues every day in the UK and in England and in Wales, which means this what we are talking about is actually serious. It's
It is.
something that is, that is so crucial that we need to talk about.
So 1,600 people go to the Citizens Advice Bureau every
Every
day
day,
because they've
absolutely,
got money problems. And
absolutely.
I guess you can look at that in two lights, can't you? On
Mm.
the one hand, that's a lorry load of people. That's a lot of people.
Mhm.
But then I guess on the other hand, it also shows that people are actually seeking
Seeking
help,
help. That's
which
yeah.
is positive.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
positively, really, people are seeking help. But if you look, like you said, if you look at it in the other on the other side, you
Hmm.
think 1,600
It's
a
a lot.
day.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people
Yeah.
that having heavy financial burden at
Mm.
this time. And also, statistics shows that 275 people a day between December 2020 and
Hmm.
February 2021 were declared bankrupt
Wow.
or insolvency, which means 275 people
A day,
a day in
one day.
England and in Wales. Yes, they said they're declared bankrupt. And you just wonder, people are going under.
Mm.
People are not able to handle their financial crisis and they are going under.
Wow.
And I think lastly from me,
Yeah.
it says statistics shows that about 1.5 properties were repossessed every day
Wow.
between October last year and December. That means 1.5. Let's even say it's a one property. That means each household has had a property over their head that's been moved. It
Hmm.
means that their houses are being
Oh
repossessed.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
how and these things just it doesn't happen just in one day.
Hmm.
These things happen over time.
Oh yeah.
And if we are not careful, it's how we manage our finances every day,
Yeah.
daily management that leads to this.
So on that one,
Yeah.
I'm surprised because
Mhm.
of course we've got the follow scheme,
Yeah.
we've got the ban on eviction, we've got mortgage holidays, all those things introduced in the UK during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But what's striking is
Mhm.
that almost two properties were still repossessed
Repossessed
every
every day.
day
Yeah.
between October
And
and
December
December
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Two properties repossessed every day. That's a
That's scary,
lot.
isn't
That's
it?
scary. Uh, And I guess, people will probably think that can't happen to me or that
Mm,
will not happen to me.
mm.
But that's a clear example
That's
that it
what
does happen to
statistics has
people.
shown, actually.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, that's right.
Wow. All right. Okay. Well, thanks for that. That's really useful to know. And I guess it's sobering to see that such a thing is happening here in the UK. Now, let's talk about, so I guess that then leads us to why we're having this event and
Yeah.
why this event is so key
Mm.
and is so important at such a time as this. So why then do we need practical steps to financial freedom? I'm sure probably a few friends of mine would like, oh, well, we've got the gospel to preach, we've got to talk about Jesus and all of that. Why
Yeah.
would you even take out time to start talking about money?
Money.
The love of money is the root of all evil, and it's
Mm.
one that we should steer clear
Mm.
of. But the truth of the matter is, money challenges is one that faces all of us.
Yes.
And for some Christians, it accounts for 90% of their prayer. Lord, give me. Lord, bless me. Lord, I need help.
Mm.
And yet, if we know the right steps to take, then we'll spend less time praying and we'll start doing the right thing and we'll get into financial freedom. So, financial freedom is important for a variety of reasons. One, because it gives you time when you're financially free,
Mm.
it gives you time to fulfill your desires and the purpose God has called you into the earth for.
Yeah.
A lot of people are working or are doing things because they've got no option.
Mm.
You have to do it or else you go bust.
Mm.
So they're doing that, all that they need to do. And unfortunately, they don't have time to take care of their family.
Yeah.
They don't have time to pursue life goals. They don't have time to do things that really matter to them. Now, these are some of the things financial freedom allows you to do.
Yeah.
Financial freedom reduces stress
It does.
overboard. Most relationships are stressed because of money issues.
Mm.
No money to feed, no money to go on holiday, no money to do the things that you want to take care of your family, or your parents need money, you don't have enough to spend or to send, and all of that. So a lot of challenges, sickness, people fall ill due to stress, relationship breakdown, people become
Homelessness.
because exactly they can't pay their rent, they end up on the streets. Crime, people go into fraud, go into drugs, sell all kinds of things because they just want to make ends meet. Imprisonment, people go to jail because of financial woes, and all of that. And even for those of us who are Christians, and it's important that we say this to ourselves, even the Bible says a borrower is a servant to the lender. It doesn't matter how spiritual you are. As long as you borrowed money from someone, you are a servant to that person.
Yeah.
And the Bible also says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Not just his children, but for his children's children. So that's why it's important that we discuss these things and we try to free ourselves from the bondage of having to work so hard and pay so many people and not live the qualitative life God wants for us. Now, of course, when you talk about financial freedom, you're talking about getting out of debts and then getting into building up your wealth so that you can truly be free. And that's how we're going to look at it. So I think for now, we'll just look at debt. We'll try to tackle the issue around debts before we go into the other issues. So, what is debt then? What is debt? How would you define debt, Victoria?
Well, debt is a sum of money that is owed due to probably because when we borrow money, a state of being under obligation to pay or repay someone or something in return for something that's been received.
Right.
So it's a state of owing.
Yeah.
And debt can be, it can be like we said, it can be we think of how do people get into debt? How? Debt, it can be either be a good or a bad debt.
Okay.
And but really, how do we get into debt? How do we owe?
Yeah.
So how do I take money from individuals or from an
Organization.
organization? And debt can be accrued through, well, I guess one of the very, very um, common ones is credit cards.
Yeah.
Credit cards, store cards, loans, spontaneous spending. There's one I really that really caused me to smile when I say impulsive spending. I just need to spend money. I need to spend it upon myself.
But
Um,
that can be bad though, Victoria.
it's
If
not.
for example, if I get angry, maybe lunch wasn't ready on time, and I just took the car key, went out, and I just went to Lakeside and just got into the
Well,
shop and just spend, just to calm myself down. Is there anything wrong with that?
I would really say probably nothing is wrong with it, as long
Hallelujah.
as it's a one-off.
Ah,
Right. It's
okay.
not every time you get
I'll put
angry.
that into the diary. Yeah.
Every time you get angry, you just get in the car and you go and spend money that you didn't plan to spend. No, that is impulsive.
Right.
That means and then that means there is actually an issue that needs to be dealt with.
Oh.
So it's either you are angry, or you're just, some people spend just like the way people eat when they are depressed, or when things, some people spend money just to make themselves happy. Money they have not had, or things they have not planned for, So it could be, and also with debt can be accrued through loan sharks.
Yeah.
People who will just go and take a loan on the streets of some of those betting shops, or and they take loan and they have not looked at the interest, they have not read the little print. Debt can be an addiction. It can be due to
Wow.
addiction. Some people are actually, when they're addicted to things, they spend money.
Yes, that's
Gambling can lead to debt. Like I said, high street
Mm.
betting shop. I read about a young man recently who said he does this horse race, when they do horse racing,
Yes,
sports betting.
Yeah.
He said he took his life savings, I think it was about 25,000, and put it on a particular horse.
Oh wow.
And that horse, that horse didn't
Didn't
it
win.
didn't win.
Oh dear.
So,
Oh dear.
and that's how
Oh,
people
dear.
get
Oh,
into
dear.
into debt. Some
Oh,
people will
dear.
take their life savings, they go to Las Vegas,
Ah,
they go to have
fun.
they go to have fun, and then they come back,
Roulette. Yeah. Wow.
and then what happens? But we're talking about how do people get into debt, and also the other side of it is getting into debt that is debt that is good debt. We'll say probably you borrow money because you have to do a business loan or for a mortgage and all of that. I'll get to that in a minute.
Right.
And one of the questions we also asked ourselves is borrowing bad? Is
Of course,
it always borrowing?
That's a good question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it
borrowing
bad?
Yeah.
Definitely, it's a yes and no question. It's a yes and no answer.
Right.
So it's a yes if you have to get into some of a type of debt, or you have to borrow to actually finance a business that is yielding, or you have to borrow to invest, or you have to borrow to buy a property, or those are
Or to
those
go to
are,
uni.
or to go to go to university. So you are using that money to further a better course, right? And in time, you know that once you get the proceeds from it, you are able to repay those debts.
Of course.
Right. But and in this country especially, you need to have a history of borrowing and paying back to build your credit history. So that in itself is not bad.
So I guess if you're then saying, oh well, I'm not going to borrow any money, I'm just going to live within my means, and those are the people you say they have poor credit history, not bad credit history, but it's poor because there's no transaction. There's nothing to show that they've borrowed money and they've paid it back, and on the basis of that they can then be given a mortgage. So it's not enough for us to okay, I've got this little money and I'm saving this little money, I am fine. Financial freedom is also being intelligent on how to borrow, get a good debt, and pay it back so that can qualify you for bigger loans in future for good things.
Yeah, I guess so. That exactly what I was saying is the fact that borrowing itself is not bad. Is the means, is the end means what you use that borrowing to do. So which takes me to another question. What is a good debt? We've talked about it. Good debt is when you borrow money to improve your credit history. The money you borrow, you use it as a means of securing the future.
Securing the
So
future,
when
a
you
better
see a
future.
better future for yourself, it's and that in itself, as it yields, like I said, you pay the money, you pay what you borrow back, and then your business or your property or your
Grows.
investment is increasing in value
Yeah.
and in yield. And we talked about bad debt. Bad debt are money we borrow to satisfy our wants and our needs.
Right.
And when you own liability, it's more of liabilities.
Liabilities.
Yeah. So I borrowed money. I borrowed money to let me look for
to buy new suits.
if you want to buy new, like I said, I guess is moderation. If you buy a new suit, is that in itself bad? No. But if you decide to keep buying every day, oh, today I've got to get something new, or if you have to hold on, if you have to build a particular status.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, that if I buy a suit to go for an interview, that sounds to me like good debt. But if I buy a suit because I saw Ronaldo put it on TV, and I go and buy it with money I don't have, and I'm paying £2,000, £3,000 for that sleek suit, then I think something is wrong with that.
Yeah. I guess it's how we look at it, and like we said, it's not borrowing itself. It's not bad, but it's what did I spend it on? What the more I borrow, what I'm spending it on, is it things are they things that will last or that will be beneficial in future, or are they things that are just for the here and the now? Am I impulsive, just feeding into just me and today? And that's the type of debt we're talking about, the difference between a good and a bad debt. And we've got a 3-minute video just to show you, which summarizes some of the things we talked about, and then we will continue from there.
I think he actually talks about paying, what it means when you have a credit card debt and paying it back. Is that
okay?
the one?
You need to stop sharing that one.
Okay. All right. Yes.
And then share that one.
And then share.
Please, if you have any questions, anything, we can see that people are putting things in the chat. Please, we will answer the questions at the tail end of the session.
I think it's not this one, it's the other one.
Okay. No, it's not that. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not
So
this
pause
one.
that one.
So share.
Just bear with us, please. I think it's this one.
Yes. It keeps
Stop sharing that.
Yeah, we did. Share. We've got the video, and we click on share. We go back to this one.
Okay, I guess we'll just continue. Sometimes technology plays up, isn't it? Yeah. So we will just continue about talking about debt, talking about different things. Escape.
Yeah, we'll go back to this. Okay. So yeah, let's continue. Right. So in terms of, I guess what's important from that video actually is the fact that you must have a plan to pay off your debts. Yeah, you must have a plan. So the video actually talks about if you have a credit card and all you pay is just minimum payments every month. If you owe $10,000, at the end, if you only make minimum payments, you would have paid the whole loan it will take you 36 years to pay back the full money, the $10,000. And at that time, you'd have paid a lot more. Is that okay?
Is it on? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Okay.
Credit card company.
Is that from the start?
I'll start it.
So every month.
Great. Okay. Yeah.
If you have a large amount of credit card debt and are only making the minimum payment every month, you're not going to pay it off anytime soon. In fact, if you only make minimum payments, it could be decades before you find yourself debt-free again. Say, for example, you have $10,000 in credit card debt, which is represented by the water level in this glass. In order to pay off that $10,000, you'll need to empty that entire glass by returning the money you owe to your credit card company. So every month you pour out a little water by making your minimum payment, which is on average around $142. That payment lowers the total amount you owe to $9,858. That's a little bit lower, but not much. Unfortunately, there are outside influences that can raise that amount, mainly being interest. Interest normally charges you around 17% of your outstanding balance at the end of every month. After 17% interest on your outstanding balance is charged, that brings your new debt amount to $9,999. So after 1 month, you've paid your credit card company $142, but your total debt has only gone down by $1. The next month, if you still only make the same minimum payment of $142, your debt will be down to $9,857. But again, there's that pesky interest sneaking up on you. So after paying 17% interest again, your debt is back up to $9,998. That means after paying your credit card company $284, your total debt has only gone down by $2. After a year making that same minimum payment every month, you'll have paid your credit card company $1,846, but you'll still owe $9,995. That means it'll take you an entire year just to lower your debt by $5. And a year later, you've only lowered what you owe your credit card company by another $5. Eventually, you'll see that if you took action to lower your debt, the money you're paying the credit card company could go towards things that you'd much rather have, like a used car, or a brand new car, or part of your child's college education, or even grad school. Then, after a quarter century and more than $40,000, your debt will only be $1,578 less.
Oh, no.
Only after 35 years without a single late or missed payment will you finally start to see some progress when you have a little more than $1,000 left to pay. Then, after 36 years of paying $142 minimum payments and 17% interest every month, you will finally have paid off your entire $10,000 of debt. But in order to pay off that $10,000, you've taken more than 3.5 decades of your life and spent more than 60 grand. Just imagine if you had an extra $61,060. You could use that for anything from shopping and vacations to paying your mortgage or rent. Just imagine if you had an extra $61,000
with this
you could use that for anything from shopping and vacations.
okay. What's wrong with the
Or you could just set it aside for retirement. You could even have spent that money on your children or grandchildren. Because even if you didn't have them before you got into debt, you could wind up with both of them after 36 years.
Right. Okay. So that in itself just is another lesson on why you don't allow your debt to skyrocket. You don't allow your debt to build up unnecessarily. So I guess the key lesson here is whatever debt you have, you must have a plan to pay them off.
Yeah.
That's important. There's no point saying, "No, this debt is unimportant. Just keep it somewhere and forget about it." Or that often happens sometimes with the debt we owe people. You're like, "What will he do? I'll just tell him I don't have the money, and that's fine." But such things destroy relationships.
It does.
And people might look at you and like, it's often amazing how you owe somebody money and then you refuse to talk about it. Meanwhile, you meet with the person every time, but you don't talk about it. So the person is looking at you like, "You owe me £1,000. You're not even saying anything about it." And then they're like, "Oh, how are you? How's your family?" and all that. And the person is still looking at you like, "Okay, so you say something about the money you owe me." But some people are so comfortable in owing people money and they don't mention it. Now, that's not good enough, because that person then looks at you like, "Oh, you don't care." And it might be that you're doing everything in your power to get that money to pay back. But as we'll see when we start talking about solutions to these things, it's important you talk to whoever you owe
money.
money too. Anyway, so that takes us nicely to, okay, so I've got a variety of debts. What do I do with them? Well, I guess the first thing is you prioritize. Like everything else, just like when you wake up in the morning, you prioritize what you're going to do that day. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to take my children to school. I love a lying in bed, but that's not going to happen until later. I'd love to cook, but that might not happen straight away. You prioritize. Now, just as there are good debts and there are bad debts, so also there are priority debts and there are debts that are not priority, but which also, like I said, you still need to have plans for in terms of paying them off. So let's look at priority debts then. Well, paying your rent, if you're renting a property from a landlord, paying your rent is a priority debt. And if you're in arrears, you need to find a way to continue to pay and to clear off the arrears. I think we were discussing before this
Yes,
event.
so yeah, we were discussing. I particularly have worked. Well, I work with a local authority, and I've worked as a rent officer before. And before you get to a stage where you're taken to court, or you are, or a bailiff comes to your house, it takes a process. It takes a process. You would have had first letter, second letter, third letter, make an arrangement and all of that. And it's the same as paying your
It
mortgages.
is, yes,
You know,
exactly.
and we were talking about this, I think, just before we started that. Yes, with COVID, the government is saying, oh, lenders should be a bit lenient, or landlords should, be lenient. Those money you are owing, they are going to add it to the one that you need to pay.
Yeah.
So the fact that government says, oh, there should be no evictions,
Yeah.
or lenders should be more lenient, it does not mean those money,
That is not
you've
owed.
lived in a free house,
Mhm.
or you've lived in a free rented apartment. Definitely not. So that money is owed.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Definitely. And in 2019, over 30,800 households were evicted.
Yeah.
30,800.
In England and
So,
Wales.
in England and Wales, some of them had children, some of them did not. Some of them never thought it would happen to them, but it happened. So these are things we can't wish away. It's a priority debt. Our mortgages and our rents are priority debts we need to pay. Council tax is a priority debt we owe. It's one we will pay for life wherever we live. So unfortunately, so again, it's another one we need to prioritize. Fuel bills also, whatever will keep your house warm and nice, needs to be prioritized.
Can I just say, talking about council tax, or not just council tax now, taxman, HMRC, those debts are actually priority debts. If you're owing them council tax, you can be taken. The NB can be you can be taken to prison.
Yeah.
You can be jailed for not paying your council tax, or for not paying the HMRC.
Yeah.
And talking about rent, I was talking about the one of the jobs I've done before. I think when we were talking about this, Vincent called me the bad cop. Yeah,
Good cop, bad cop. Yes,
and
good
bad
cop, bad cop. I'm the good cop because I work in a sector where we try to help people.
They try to rehouse
We
people.
try to rehouse people, irrespective of what happened to them before, But she's a bad cop because they evict people from properties.
I was doing my job. So I give an example of a man who
the guy was
when I was working as a housing officer, and the guy he was meant to be evicted, and we've sent letters, we've done everything, tried to contact him, he didn't respond. And on the day of his eviction, I went there with the bailiff, and what happened? The guy sat there, he was having breakfast. And we said, well, we are here to evict you and all of that. And beside by the entrance of his house, you will see all of the letters are piled up, and he had not bothered to open them. And he was evicted, unfortunately. And it's not just being evicting people. Sometimes for you as a person is emotionally draining, when you know that this person is going to become homeless. But there are steps we need to take before it gets to that.
That's true. That's true. I agree. And the truth of the matter is, before it gets to that crisis point, there's always a build up to it. And if we tackle things early, then it doesn't get to that crisis point. And I think that's one of the key takeaways for today. So what about non-priority debts then, which Like I keep saying, you still must pay,
But they're not.
but they're not. If you have little in your hands, it shouldn't be committed to them first if you've got priority debt. Now, these are your store cards. You know, your store cards. I almost mentioned the store there, but I don't want to do that.
Credit cards.
Your credit cards, you know, money owed to family and friends. My caveat to that is yes, it might not be a priority debt, but it can destroy relationships. So you've got to bear that in mind. Overpayments of benefits, loans owed to money lenders. Now, these are the people who often shout the loudest, pay our money, we're coming to your property, and all of that. And if we're not careful, we pay them.
The loan sharks.
The loan sharks.
The payday.
Exactly. Payday loans.
Payday
exactly.
loans.
We pay them whilst our priority debts are left untouched. So it's important that we tackle our priority debts. And also, there are debts you pay just to make you feel good, and it's important you pay those ones too. So sometimes you're looking at 10 debts and you're looking at how am I going to clear them? And there's one where it's just £200 and you owe it to a friend. Now, instead of tackling the £20,000 debt, you can start with that, pay the £200, and instead of 10 debts, I've got 9 left. That would energize you, keep your relationship going, and help you focus more on tackling the larger debts. Now, after talking about priority debt and non-priority debt, we need to ask ourselves the questions. So why do people fail to ask for help? Why do people fail to seek for advice? And there are a variety of reasons for that. And you might be here, and if you know any of these reasons, you can please put it in the chat. But some of it, one I've found is pride. We set ourselves on the status that I'm known as this, and I can't. If people know I'm in a financial problem, oh wow, they'll look down on me.
So that's status then.
So that's status. So because of our status, some people will do anything to drive a big car, a jeep, just because it gives them the status that okay, they feel like okay, yes, I've arrived, and people see them as such. And yet they might be poorer than the man who is waiting for a bus at the bus stop.
Yeah, and I think that I remember, we used to say to the children that, you know what, if you've got a Land Cruiser, latest Land Cruiser, you've got a latest Land Rover. Let me add one more.
The Lexus.
If you've got the latest Lexus and you've got a landlord, then you've got to rethink.
Yeah, something is wrong. Yeah.
Something is wrong somewhere because you've got your priorities wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. So why would you park a Land Cruiser, a Land Rover, a Lexus or a Lamborghini
in front of a landlord's
property? It means you've got something wrong. So
I said to them, I said, better to be a landlord and not have a Land Cruiser or a Lamborghini or a Lexus, because over time that property that you've got will increase in value. All of those cars you have are going to decrease in value over time. They depreciate over time. Somebody said when you drive a brand new car out of an auto store, out of an auto dealership, when you drive it out, it loses between 30 to 50% of its value straight away. So what's the point then of going into things like that? So pride stops people from getting help. People don't want to be stigmatized. And money matters are so easy to hide from people, if you're sick, if you're unwell, people can see straight away that you're unwell. But with money matters, we can keep it under wraps. Nobody sees it. Even in relationships, you find couples who don't even talk about their money issues. Yeah. They don't know what each other owe. And he just keeps saying, I have a headache. And you are praying for him, you are laying hands, you're cooking, you're cooking for him, you're like, your blood pressure keeps rising. What's the problem? Not knowing that there's a financial storm brewing inside your own home and you're not aware of it. So that it's important that we seek help. And so I guess that then takes us to where exactly can we seek help from? How do we start navigating our way out of our challenges? The first thing is, please speak to whoever you owe money. and try to negotiate a repayment term. That's key to all debt, either priority or non-priority. Seek a repayment term you can afford. Speak to them, keep speaking to them. Don't let them chase you, chase them. Let them know that you want to pay back the debts. This is, you know what you're owing and you're making plans towards it. People leave letters, even something as little as a PCN, a parking fine, you get it and it comes and so I'm busy right now. And before you know it, 14 days passes or whatever happens, and guess what? The money is doubled, or you are asked to pay a lot more, or you are taken to court. It's important that if you owe anybody money, you speak to them and you negotiate a way out of it. So that's important. Number two, speak to a debt or financial advisor about the situation. If your lenders are not listening, the person you're lending, who you're owing money to, if they're not listening, get a financial advisor on board who can serve as a third party to try to help you solve the problem. And then also, as we've put on as you can see on the screen, you can go to the Citizens Advice Bureau. 1,600 people went last year. Every day. There's no reason why you can't go. It does not reduce our spirituality to when we ask for help. It doesn't. People may look down on you, but guess what? Almost virtually everybody is in some form of debt of one kind or the other. Virtually everyone is in debt in one way or the other. So don't allow what people will say or how they will look stop you from seeking advice. You've got the National Debt Helpline there. And of course, there's a National Debt Assistance website where you can get more information around government-backed schemes that can help you write off some or all of your debts. Also, there's the Money Charity website and so many websites that will tell you about how to come out of debt. University of YouTube, like we said the last time, University of YouTube is a very, very good place to learn how to prioritize your debts and how to pay them off over time. So I guess that's that in terms of debt management, coming out of debt. So let's now talk about if you want to protect yourself from a financial crisis. You don't want to lose your home. You don't want to lose your relationship. You want to set yourself on a strong financial footing for the future. Where does that start from?
Well, I guess you may think, thank you. You may think this, okay, I don't have debt. Oh, Vincent, Victoria, I really don't have debt. I don't belong to that category. I am debt free. If indeed, probably you are debt free. If you finish paying your mortgage, if you are debt free, you don't have credit card loan, you don't have loans like me. Yes, you're debt free. But we're not thinking of how do I actually protect myself from getting into financial crisis. And one of the things I did here, I wrote down here, is that you need to know your income and expenditure. Your income, your expenses must not exceed your income. Once your expenses, your expenditure exceeds the income, it's just a matter of time before you start getting into debt. And one of the things we talked about was that spontaneous spending, impulsive spending. Sometimes we go out, it may be to supermarket, it may be to a store where they sell, things that are more expensive or dear, and you see buy two get one free. Did you plan to buy two? Did you set out to buy two and get one free? Or you only set out to buy one? I said, know your income and expenditure. Know what your debt obligations are. So, for example, you have a mortgage. You know how much you need to pay every month.
Every month, yeah.
We stick to it. We don't say, oh, you know what, I'm going to hold my mortgage. I'm going to hold my lender for 3 months and go on holiday. When I come back, I sort that out. By the time you come back, your home may not be there anymore. So we need to know our debt obligations. And really, if you are the kind of person who loves to spend, some people like to spend on themselves. You can have multiple streams of income. There are ways that people are looking at, how can I recycle what I have now to get what I want? Some people sell on eBay. You can put things on Facebook Market I have a friend who just got a Mac Pro from Facebook Market, and my God, when she told me how much she got it, I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
You know, Facebook Market, and if you are the type of person that have these things, put them on the market as well, and then you will sell those for the things you. It's like we are
Recycling. You know,
recycling it
isn't it amazing how many things we have in our homes
that we don't use.
that we don't use, that we can easily trade off, sell off
Absolutely.
for money? So many things. We see things, we've not touched them. If you have something in your house and you've not touched it for 2 years, 3 years, you need to question, unless it's an antique, something that you look at and you just feel happy when you see it. Otherwise, all those things that we just keep in our living rooms, in our bedrooms, in our wardrobes, some of them need to go, and they will yield us money.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about multiple streams of income. That's just one of it. Online, there's so many things that can be done online now. All you need to do is, once you find a passion, research into it. A lot of people are YouTubers now, especially the young ones. You know, I tell my children, you keep watching them, but they get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTubers, people who are there, they just say, click, can you click subscribe? And we keep subscribing. That's another way to get income. And there's so many ways, but once you realize your passion, you research into it. When you have credit cards, even though if you're not in debt, know your repayment terms. Some of these credit cards, their interest rate is over the moon.
Yeah.
Some of them, like the video we watched, is all you keep paying back is the interest. And over years before you actually pay the actual money back. So let's look at one of the things we've done personally, which we're sharing, is the fact that if you have a credit card, you can do money transfer or balance transfer.
Oh yeah.
If you know that credit card is going to eat the higher rate, look for another credit card if you have a good credit history with 0% interest.
Yeah.
24 months.
Yeah.
Transfer that money and transfer it into another credit card, and before you know it, at least you would have paid a large chunk off.
Yeah.
Without interest rate.
Yeah.
Make a monthly budget you can afford and stick to it. You know, I tell people, you know, sometimes people bring things your way that you know what, I really don't need it, but I'll buy it just because everybody else is buying it.
Or
no,
because you want to please the person.
Because you want to please the person. You haven't budgeted for it. So stick to your budget.
Yeah.
Stick to it. Negotiate. We've talked about this. Negotiate with your lenders. Make sure when you negotiate, if you're in debt, make sure you negotiate what is workable, what you can stick, what you can keep to over a long term. Don't say, don't make a rush to negotiate. When I was a rent officer, we have people who will say, all I can pay is extra £5 on top my rent every month. And you know, as a rent officer, that's going to take them 20 years. But the thing is, they've committed to a mode of payment. So they will, and you find out that some of them won't struggle. They will keep paying it. Yeah. So, but lastly,
on that though, and I think when we were preparing for this, I said, but please don't do that with family and friends. You know, you owe me £1,000, and then I ask for my money, and you say I can only commit to £10 a month. Well, in my mind, I'm like, even when you're 100 years old, you'll still be owing me. That is not going to work for me at all. So with those ones, you can negotiate and say, okay, I'll pay you back your money in July. And it'll be the full amount. Now, you then know that you need to be putting aside your £50, your £100, so that you can have my £1,000 or £10,000 ready in July. So it's all about negotiation. I guess that's what's important.
Yeah. And one last thing I put here is, don't bury your head in it. Don't think it will go away. If you're in a financial situation or a financial crisis, don't just wish it away. It won't go away. You need to do something about it. You need to take a step, a bold step. We in Christendom, we call it a step of faith. You need to start doing something. Yeah. Speak to those lenders. Speak to the people you borrowed money from. Think of, I know of a particular sister that had so many credit card debts at some point, and I think it was because of impulsive spending. At some point, she said, you know what, that's it. I'm going to start paying this money back. And what did she do? She cut all of those credit cards.
Mm.
She cut them into shreds so that she wouldn't use them again. And by God's grace, God helped her. And with advice, with budgeting, she was able to pay that money back.
Mm.
And I think that's where we need to be if we want to have a future that is financially, we don't have a financial burden when we are 60, when we are 70.
Yeah.
That's not the time to start thinking of, how do I pay this back? So the time to start is now.
Is now. Wow. Thank you for that. We're getting some very, very interesting questions on Facebook. So please, if you have questions, you can put it in the chat on Facebook, or in the comments on Facebook, or in the chat on Zoom, and we'll pick them up. They're interesting questions which I'm not sure they're easy answers to, but of course we'll try. And if you do have answers to them, of course you can let us know. So I guess as we start bringing these together, what are the steps then we need to take to get into financial freedom? Remember where we started from. Overloaded with debts, you need to negotiate your way out of it and pay and commit to pay. That then takes you to a point, hopefully, where you are near debt-free, or the debts you have are good debts. And then you now need to start thinking about your financial future. How are you going to build that future, which will leave an inheritance for your children's children? Yeah, your children's children. Yeah. So that's the last bit we're looking at now. And I guess the first thing to say is that whatever you need to do around either getting out of debt or preparing for the future, the time to start is now. It's now. You really need to start now. You can't leave it. You can't say, oh, you know what, when I turn 50, then I'll start putting my financial future in place. That's way too late. You should have started since you were 20. So you can't leave it till you're 50. You need to start now. Get your debts under control and start working on how to become financially free. And what do you need to bear in mind? Number one is, if you don't have a goal, you will not have anything to achieve.
Yep.
You need to set financial goals for yourself. You need to have life goals. When I turn 65 and I retire, what kind of income do I want to have every year for the next 30 years if I live till 95, for example? And you need to think about it that way and set your financial goal accordingly. Because relying on government or relying on benefits will not work. The UK, I read this in the news yesterday, the UK is at its highest point of borrowing since World War II. We're living in a false economy. We're using other people's money to prop things up. It's not going to last. It's either, of course, we know already we're servants to such people, or number two, austerity will kick in. And with austerity comes job losses, comes a reduction in a lot of things. And unless you are well prepared now, then austerity will hit people hard. So it's important that we set life goals. It's important also that you have automatic savings. Some of us get the money, spend, and then we look at what's left, and then we take a bit of that and put it aside. It should be done the other way around. Pay yourself first. When the money comes into your account, the saving needs to go out straight away, so that whatever is then left can be used to handle whatever you need to.
Can I say something?
Welcome.
And it's not the type of savings account where we have easy access to, where when we need money, we just move it to the current.
Exactly.
And then we still spend.
Yeah.
So it's not that type of
Thank you.
savings.
Exactly. And that's so important, because there is something bad about all these apps we have on our phones and on our tablets. You can easily, with 2 clicks, you can spend £2,000 just with 2 clicks. You can move money from one account into another and gone. It's gone. £22,000 of your savings gone just like that, because they've made it so easy. Your saving needs to go into somewhere you can't have easy access
Access.
into, and somewhere where it will continue to generate its own wealth as you keep it there for longer. Now, apart from creating,
Think, what about insurance, life
oh yes, oh
insurance?
yeah, yeah, we're going to talk about
Christians,
insurance.
yeah.
Yeah. So you need to start investing now. Yeah, invest, get a will done. Yeah, it's important. Get a will done. We will live forever. Yes, it's okay. Get a will done. It's still important. Get life insurance, with long life, with the Lord satisfy me,
and show me His
hallelujah, and
salvation
show me his salvation. I will live, I will not die. You will die
at some point.
at some point. Prince Philip died at 99.9. He still died. We will all die at some point. So it's good to get life insurance in place. And God will bless us with long life and we will not need that life insurance. Amen.
But the people will leave
But
behind.
the people will leave behind. I always say when people die, some people cry, not because they love that person, but because of the problem he has left behind. They're like,
Financial crisis.
where will I start from? We still owe £200,000 on this property, and he has left me to it. Those are the things that make people cry. And you see people not eating and crying and they're depressed, and you think it's because they love the person. It's not. It's because of the problem the person has left behind. So get a will, get life insurance, invest in your pension.
Yep.
Your workplace would have a pension scheme. Invest in it. Don't wish it away. Don't I'll make my own pension plans. People don't make their own pension plans most of the time. And even if they do, from statistics, it's usually best to invest in your workplace pension. Especially if you work maybe like with the government. If you work in the government sector, the pension schemes are usually very, very good.
I guess, yeah, so that will apply to people who are employees. And now it's looking at people who are self-employed.
Yeah, that's true.
How do we, there's so many pension schemes out
Pension
there.
schemes,
And
yeah.
even now, the government is, the people that are working agencies, that consultants that never used to pay probably taxes straight away or pension before, now they are forcing them to do it because so that the burden will be less on the government. Because if those people don't pay anything towards their pension pot, at some point they'll go on maybe benefit when they are older, which is a burden on the government. So if you are self-employed, look for different pension schemes out there.
Exactly.
Honestly, it is preparing, securing the future. That's what it is. We don't want to get into a future. We don't want to build a future where when you're 70, 75, you're still looking for I beg to apply. It's not the best, is it?
Yeah, exactly. So get your pension sorted, invest in ISAs, properties, government bonds. All of these things are there. And people might tell you, yeah, but the yield is small and all of that. Everyone's doing it. The rich are doing it. Do it too. Financial freedom is a daily affair. That's another key takeaway tonight. We're not saying you need to go and find one huge sum of money and put it in a particular scheme, which a lot of people have done, and it has not worked for them. It's putting a little aside every day and doing it consistently. That's what brings financial
over time. It yields.
Freedom. Exactly. It yields over time. It does, and that's important. And I guess the last thing, two more things I'll say on this one, and then we'll start tidying this or watch a video and then round up. Invest in your health. Health is linked to money. Health is linked to your worth. Invest in your health. It's just as important that you invest in your health. If you fall ill today and you're not able to go to work, your work might be able to pay your salary for a while, but that might then stop and then you might run into financial problems. So it's important that you live in a way today which would ensure that your health is sound. Not just for today, but also for the future. Yeah. So, and just on the back of that, and I'm inviting you straight away on the 26th of, on the 22nd of May, that's next month, exactly around a month's time, we're going to have another session like this, a virtual event for the month of May, and we'll be looking at health, practical health,
Mm.
And how to optimize our lives
Mm.
by doing a few things that will make us better in our health, make us enjoy life more.
Mm. Mm.
Because we believe that that's God's plan for all of his children. He says, I am the God that heals you.
Mm.
So he wants us to live a life of health.
Mm.
Now, when you live in health today, then you have the energy to tackle all of your financial issues and head into financial freedom. If the health is gone, it becomes more difficult.
It does. It does.
It becomes difficult.
And I think we need to look at the fact that some people will say, okay, if I fall sick, if I work 16, 18 hours a day, or if I always walk back to back, and I don't take time to rest and all of that, oh well, NHS is there, it's free health care. Yes, that's very true. NHS will look after you as long as you have the right what's it the right documents to live in the country. You have the credit, yeah, you have the right to stay in the country. NHS will look after you. But look at it in the long run. Yes, if NHS looks after you, you go back home and you're still not well. A lot of employers now these days, before they used to give probably 6 months, they keep paying, but after 6 months, those are the generous ones.
Yeah.
Some probably after a month or two, if you're not back at work, they just make you redundant.
Yeah.
And if we don't have the health we need today to plan for tomorrow, if we don't invest in our health, definitely it's going to affect our finances.
Yeah.
And once that sets in,
yeah, exactly. It just becomes a huge challenge to overcome. So let's invest in our health today. And finally, we spoke about getting angry and going on impulsive shopping. I think I have the caveat, I have the other way around to that, which probably will help. So you've always wanted that suit. Well, you can pay yourself after you've met some of your financial goals. Yeah. So, for example, when you set your life goals and you're traveling on it and you're meeting it, now you can at some point then decide that, okay, I'm going to just reward myself a little, give myself a little reward because I've been a good boy. I intended to save £1,000 over the course of 1 year, and I've been able to save 1,100. I'm going to spend that 100 on myself. Reward yourself to continue to motivate you. The truth of the matter is, this thing is so boring sometimes to do, to take out that money and save when you have all these needs, looking at you in the face. Reward yourself so that you can stay motivated. We'll look at the chart. So, okay. So we've got here.
It's very compulsory for all employers.
It's compulsory for all employers to join the pension scheme, but optional for employees to join. The government might make it optional for employees to join, but our advice is it is best that you join. And the reason being, if at the end of it, for example, if you fall sick at 70, the government will start looking at what you have that they can take away. You understand? To take away and to take away from you. So you've got to ensure that you join the pension scheme, you build your own wealth so you can take care of yourself and not just rely on the government, because what they give is not exactly, it's just stipends. It's not up to scratch at all. Okay, we're going to
and so sorry, I'm taking us back. We talked about life insurance the other time.
Yeah.
A lot of Christians believe, oh yes, like we said, we do quote the scriptures. We, by God's grace, we are pastors, and we believe that what God says is true, and his word is true, that we will live long. But just if you look at the insurance, it's just like the same way we take insurance for our homes, for our cars, just in case anything happens. so that when you leave people behind, they don't suffer.
Yeah.
They don't start again from the scratch. Or
Exactly.
even the mortgage you have tried to, or the rent you have tried to pay, it's taken from them because they cannot keep up with that payment. And I think that's the more reason why we need to look at insurance and just putting things in place for the future.
Yeah.
So we've got another video just to share with you. It's a 3 minute video, and then once we finalize this video, is it playing up? Once we finalize with this video, then we will round up with the questions.
Yes.
Is it playing up?
I'm trying to find the
Okay, we can start with the questions.
video. Okay. Right. So we've got a few questions which we have. So the first one here says, do we need separate financial goals as a couple? Okay. We're getting into the realm of marriage here, which is always interesting. Do we need separate financial goals as a couple? My take on that one is the two shall become one. And also there is strength in partnership. The Bible says one will chase 1,000. Yeah, just let's keep it there. Yeah. One will chase 1,000, two will put 10,000 to flight. One of the things that we need to learn, especially those of us from an African descent, is the fact that we don't work in partnership enough, either within our own family setting or even with other people. With other people, our Asian brothers and sisters, our Jewish brothers and sisters are very good at this, coming together, pulling resources together to build wealth. There's something in us, I want to be a billionaire. It is difficult for one man to decide to become a billionaire and become one. It's very, very difficult. It often happens in partnership with other people. So, should we have separate financial goals? I'd say that's not the ideal. The ideal is to work together in terms of your finances. Work together. And there are different models you can consider. It could be you have your own money, I have my own money, or we have this pot of money we put together into. It could be we bring all the money together into one pot of money, or it could be the model. I'm sure women like this one. The man's money is for the family, but the woman's money is for herself. You could decide on whatever financial model you want to choose, but it helps and it pays to work together as a couple. Should we see if we can watch the video now?
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, play it.
There's a misconception that to be good with money, you need a lot of it. Not true. What you need to be good with money is everyday management. Whether you're planning for yourself or for your whole family, there are 3 basic steps you can take to make the most of your money. 1, create a budget. 2, set savings goals. And 3, tackle your debts. When put into practice, these steps can have a big impact, not only on your monthly budget, but on your overall financial future. One of the first steps to better money management is to create a budget and stick to it. This might sound simple, but you'd be surprised how few people actually do it. You can think of your budget as your guide to reaching your financial and personal goals. If you have trouble covering all your expenses each month, a budget can help you avoid overspending. That's because your budget can help you see and understand exactly where your money is going and whether or not your spending is in line with your personal goals. The next step is to set savings goals. With your budget in place, building your savings will be that much easier because you'll know how much extra money you have each month to allot to your goals. One of the best savings goals to start with is an emergency fund. Building up an emergency fund to help cover unexpected expenses like a sudden medical bill, major home or car repair, or even a job loss can help you avoid going into debt when life throws you a curveball, which it will. Instead of borrowing money to cover these emergencies, you'll already have the money saved up, and this could end up saving you a lot more money in the long run. Start by building up 3 months' worth of expenses as a goal. Once you've established an emergency fund and are living within your budget, you can then figure out some long-term savings goals. whether you decide to plan for your retirement, or save for a home improvement, college, or even a well-deserved vacation. You'll be better able to set aside some money and have a timeline for reaching your goals. The third step is to tackle any debts you have. First, as you're working to pay them down, you'll probably want to stop adding to the debts you already have. The less debt you have, the easier it'll be to get out from under it. It could also be helpful to know what your debt is costing you each month. Once you know how much your debt costs, you can create a plan that helps you reduce it and eventually pay it off. The sooner you get started, the more money you can save. It's worth noting that managing your debt and your savings go hand in hand. For instance, if you have a debt with a very high interest rate, it may make sense to focus on paying it down at the same time, or even before you build your entire emergency fund. As you make a plan to tackle your debt, setting target goals can help you stay on track as you actually see and feel the progress you're making. These 3 steps are the basic components of money management, and it's easy to see how they can work together. By keeping a budget, you'll know what you have available to accomplish your savings goals and tackle your debts. Having an emergency fund can help you avoid adding any new debt. And occasionally checking in, reviewing your budget from time to time, can help you set long-term savings goals, like a down payment on a home, as your priorities and circumstances change. Now that you have an understanding of the basics, why not take the next step? Being smarter with your money, learning new tips and techniques, can help you today and down the road.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we go to the questions now.
Yeah. So we've tackled the first question around goals as a couple, and we said, yeah, it's best if it's done together. So should we pick the first one on Facebook then?
So this question reads, talking about priority debt, is council allowed to force a landlord for a debt that a tenant owed for years, while the tenant was living in the property and the council did not do anything to collect the money, until when the landlord approached the council that a new tenant is moving into the property, the council now passed the debt onto the landlord and was thinking of bankruptcy for the landlord. So how do one handle this type of situation?
Wow.
I guess I want to assume that the debt that is being owed here is not the rent. Maybe it's a council tax. So usually when there is transition, when a tenant moves out of a property and another tenant moves in, or if the property is empty, it is the responsibility of the landlord to inform the council that that property is empty. Gone are the days when you wouldn't pay council tax when a property is empty and unfurnished. But now they collect council tax, either a property is furnished or
Or
not.
not.
As if it's empty, then that's the landlord's
Obligation.
responsibility
Yeah.
to pay. But if usually what you can supply to the council is the tenancy agreement and the notice to quit. So the evidence that this tenant moved in at this time and the tenant moved out.
Mhm.
And if it's now left for the council to actually find the forwarding address of that tenant and pursue that
Chase them.
tenant for the debt. But in a case where the council was not informed that a tenant left the property, if we cannot provide the evidence that that tenant left the property, then of course the council will chase the landlord for it. And like I said, I want to assume this is a council tax. This is not a rent. So if it's a council tax, if that information is not provided to the council, unfortunately, the landlord will be made liable. But if the landlord can provide evidence,
What if it is rent?
if it's a rent, the council cannot chase you for. So if it's a rent, it's different, right? Because the rent is paid to the landlord, not to the council. Except if that person is subletting a council property, which in itself is a fraud. So if it's a rent,
Yeah.
the rent is paid to the landlord, by the
landlord,
tenant.
yeah.
But I guess, like I said, what I'm talking about, this one is definitely probably a council tax. It's council tax bill. If we can provide the evidence to the council that this tenant you will have a tenancy agreement if it's properly done, and that's why sometimes we need to do things we need to do things by the books.
Yeah.
Because what the council wants is evidence that, okay, this tenant lived from this time to this time, and you can actually even show them your bank statement if you don't have any other proof that this person was paying rent to you until this time when they moved out. But yeah,
I think to take us one step back, I think to better understand this, we've got to think about what kind of debts can a tenant owe, can a tenant who
who
has a landlord
who
owe the
the
council.
council.
It can't be rent because the tenant pays rent to
The
the
landlord.
landlord. So it can only be council tax, or maybe it's a property where, and I don't know if this still happens, maybe it's a leasehold arrangement. So the landlord is the leaseholder, the council is the freeholder, or maybe there are services that are provided
Okay.
which the tenant is meant to pay for, but which the tenant has defaulted on, and the council is now chasing the landlord for.
So even if it's a leaseholder, if it's a leasehold agreement,
Mhm.
if the landlord or the leaseholder can actually provide that evidence,
Proof.
that tenant was in that property at that party, a named person lived in that property, and there was a proper agreement, then they should be chasing the tenant.
The tenant.
I used to work as what we call former tenant arrears, and we have a lot of tools how we trace people through their bank statements, through where they've lived and all of that. So the council should be in a position to be able to trace that person as long as we provide the evidence. I hope that answered the questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's another tricky one there. It says, is it a good idea to use credit card to pay off priority debts? Is it, and I like the way the question is phrased. They say, is it a good idea? It didn't say, can you use it or not? Because I think the truth of the matter is most people who are in debt will use their credit card to stave off a lender or a landlord and pay it off, and then try to find ways of paying off their credit card debt. So when you use your credit card, it's like you've taken a loan to pay off maybe your rent or a priority debt, council tax, and all that, so that at least you keep the government at bay, and then you can then make plans or arrangements to clear off that credit card debt. So whilst it is not ideal, because basically what you've done is you've just shifted that debt from one side to the other. But at the same time, if that will keep your property over your head, then yes, that's fine. It's just that it is still a debt and you need a plan in place to pay it off.
I guess the only thing I'll add to that is one of the things we talked about is the credit card. Is it a card that you're just getting? You need to ensure that the interest rate is not high. Because if the interest rate is high, then you're actually in a way multiplying the debt.
Yeah.
And if you actually take that credit card and you use it to pay priority debt, look at how you can get another credit card, transfer that amount into another credit card with no interest rate for about 2 to 3 years. Most of the time they do 18 months to
18
24,
months, yeah,
24
18 months
months,
interest-free
where
credit cards.
you know that once you have it there's no interest on it, and then you are planning and making plans to pay both the credit card and the priority debt.
Yeah. And when you make, the good thing about interest-free credit card is that when you transfer money into it and you are paying it off, you're actually paying the capital without interest for a period of 18 months, which is really good. It can really help you bring the debts down to a manageable amount. Okay, so how can I prepare for my future if I don't have any capital? Well, I think that's simple. We, like we said, people think, oh, to invest, I need 50,000 to buy a property, and that's an investment, and that's true. That's a type of investment. But there are other investments. There are little investments you can make. £10 a month.
Or you can
£10
even do
a week.
cooperative. People do
cooperative. Exactly.
Yeah.
They come together.
Yeah.
12 people come together.
Pay
pay
£50
£50 or £100 a month, and each month somebody gets the lump sum.
Yeah.
You can use that lump sum as your investment money. So you don't have to start with a big capital, but you have to, the key thing is you have to start. You just have to start from somewhere. Putting something aside, something you know you are not going to touch, something you put aside, which you're like, okay, I'm going to keep this thing there for 25 years so it can yield it can accrue interest, compound interest, and then give you more money at the end. Another one, bailiffs are threatening to take my property. What can I do? Wow, that's a crisis point, isn't it? So you said you used to evict people. So when you go to people's property, what can they do to escape you? You see, bad cop, good cop, bad cop.
I will say honestly, before it gets to the bailiff, it means you are not engaged
Wow.
with the people that are trying to get money from you.
Yeah.
Because like I said, bailiff is always the last resort.
Last resort.
And when bailiffs come, it's if you have engaged, if you have been able to make if you've acknowledged that yes, I've got this debt, I need to pay it, either it's priority or non-priority debt, and you make, like we said, reasonable arrangements to pay it back, then trust me, bailiffs won't be knocking on your door. But if at the end of the day bailiffs are now knocking, you're at that point where bailiffs are knocking. I do know that usually if you don't open the door to the bailiffs, they can't force entry.
Right.
But
it's good to know.
There's a caveat to that. If they've been to magistrate court, they can force entry.
Wow.
And whatever they find in the property, they can take. They can take and they can sell. If it's a magistrate, if there's a magistrate warrant, but if it's not from the magistrate court, then if you don't open the door, they cannot force entry. But what I would say is it's not a good thing to have bailiff knocking at your door.
Oh yeah.
I think even if the bailiff has come to yours, you can still call because remember that you are not holding the bailiffs. Bailiffs are just an enforcement agent. So you can actually contact
the lender,
the whoever's lend you that money or who you are owing to still make arrangements and to pay that debt off. So I guess that's the only. But like I do say, if it's a magistrate court, definitely they can force entry into your property.
Right. Okay. I think that's about it in terms of questions. Unless there's any other, please, if you have any last questions, please feel free to put it in as we round up tonight. So thanks everyone for joining this session. We hope you found it useful. 3 things we've talked about: getting out of debt, getting out of financial crisis, and preparing yourself for the future. And these are things that we need. So we're Transformation Sanctuary. You can see it on the banner behind us, Transformation Sanctuary International. And we do these programs every month, tackling practical issues in our lives, which would save us time and money and stress. So next month, we're looking at health. So please do join us. Exercise, dieting.
Not dieting.
We're going to talk about it all. Exercise, diet. It's not just what you believe, it's across the board. Exercise, dieting, yoga. Is it good for a Christian to do yoga? And all of bring it on next month, 22nd of May. We're going to be looking at them. We're going to be talking about them. The key is how we can optimize our health for a better life. I think in one of the chats we have on Zoom, it says health is wealth. And that is so key. That is so true. Health is wealth. So please feel free to join us again this time next month. If you have any questions before then, please put it in. Feel free to contact us. Our Sunday services are on Zoom and Facebook every Sunday, 10 a.m. Our award-winning Bible study is on Thursday, 7 p.m. on Facebook and on Zoom also, this same platform. Please feel free to join us. You will be blessed, guaranteed. You'll be blessed or your money back. Well, we don't even pay anyways. So you'll be blessed or your money back every Thursday for our Bible study. I think that's about it. And like I said, we'll be having this event. We have a Facebook, a YouTube page where all our messages go on to, and some of these events also will be on our YouTube page. You can go there and watch it at
You can
your
share.
leisure. And please feel free to share with friends and family. That's it from us, unless there's any other question. Thank you all for joining tonight. And we pray God's blessing upon you.
Amen.
And we pray you will achieve your financial freedom, which will give you the quality life you want and the ability to fulfill God's purpose for your life. Have a good evening, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Bye.